Good evening, everyone. I am Roger Palma, together with Ginalyn Onga, your reporter for tonight, and we're going to report the Chapter 5, The American Dream. The Filipino revolutionists once again the Spaniards who colonized us for more than 300 years. On June 12, 1898, our flag was hoisted as a symbol of our independence. Emilio Aguinaldo was elected as the first president of the Philippines Republic, where American was dissolved to defeated by General Miguel Malvar in 1903. Filipino writers went into all forms of literature like news, reporting, poetry, stories, plays, essays, and novels. The active arousal in the field of literature started to be felt in the following newspaper. El Nuevo Día, the New Day, established by Sergio Esmiña in 1900. El Grito del Pueblo, the Call of the Nation, established by Pascual Poblete in 1900 also. Renacimiento, the Revert, founded by Rafael Palma in 1901. There were also plays writing, but after that the first and second presentation, the Americans put a stop to this because of consistent theme of nationalism included Here We Are, the following. Kahapon, ngayon at bukas. Yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Tinakalang ginto of Juan Abad. Malaya by, to, Malaya by Tomas Remio. Walang sugat by Severino Reyes. Characteristic of literature during this period. There are three groups of writers contributed to the Philippine literature during this period. During the first year of American period, the language used in writing were Spanish and Tagalog, and dialect of the different religion, but Spanish and Tagalog predominated. In 1910, new group started to write English, while the three groups were on their idea and spirit in their methods of reporting. The writer in Spanish were want to write a nationalism like honoring Rizal and other heroes. The writer in Tagalog continued their lamentations on the condition of the country and their attempt to arouse love for one's native tongue. The writers in English imitated the theme and method of the Americans. Literature in Spanish. The inspiration of our Filipino writers in Spanish was Rizal. These two novels contain the best quality of a novel ever written, in English or in Filipino. Those who were inspired the writer to praise of him were Cecilio Apostol, Fernando Maguerero, Jose Balmori, Manuel Bernabe, and Claro M. Ricto. Cecilio Apostol wrote poems dedicated to all other heroes, but his poem dedicated to Rizal is considered the best poem in praise of the honor of Bagumbayan. Fernando Maguerero shared Apostol the reign in the Balagtasan in Spanish during their time. He also dedicated a poem to Rizal, but he collected the best of his poems in a book of chrysalidas, meaning a kind of black woolly caterpillar. Jesus Balmori, well known for his pen name of Baticuling, he and Manuel Bernabe participate in debate on the topic Remembrance of Forgetfulness. He was ejected poet laureate in Spanish, besting Manuel Bernabe. Manuel Bernabe is a lyric poet, and the fierceness of his nationalistic spirit was unchanged in any topic he wrote about. In his debate with Balmori, he was more attractive to the public because of the modious word he used. He defended Olvido, for, Forgetfulness, Claro M. Recto. He collected his poem in the book entitled Bajo los Cocoteros, means under the coconut tree. Other writer in Spanish, Adelina Guerrilla, was the first woman poet in Philippines who was good in Spanish. She obtained the Jubel Prize in her song El Nido, The Nest. Isidro Mapori became famous for his four books entitled Aromas de Sueño, or The Sense of Dream. Macario Adriatico wrote The Legend of Mindanao entitled La Punta de Salto, or The Place of Origin. Epaminio de los Santos, known as Don Panyon, he was a good leader and biographer during the whole period of Spanish literature. Pedro Aunario wrote the Decalogo del Protestantismo. Filipino literature, Florante at Laura of Francisco Balagtas and Urbana at Felisa of Modesto de Castro became the inspiration of the Tagalog writers. Juliana Cruz Balmaceda classified three kinds of the Tagalog poet. They were poet of the heart, makata ng puso; poet of life, makata ng buhay; poet of states, makata ng tanghalan. In the column of pangsandaliang libangan, or the short-term leisure, and, daglit, or the fast, we find here the name of Lope K. Santos, Patricio Mariano, and Rosauro Almario. In the Liwayway publication, we find Eugracias Rosario, Teodoro Henry, and Sergio H. Panganiban. Noted novelist or biographer were Valeriano Hernandez Peña, Lope Q. Santos, Inigo Ed. Rigaldo, Faustino Aguilar, and etc. Autobiographies of some writers mention Lope Q. Santos, a novel, poet, and author. Grammarian covered the three periods of Tagalog literature. He also called as the father of the national language grammar. He also called as the apo of the Tagalog writer. Second, Jose Corazon de Jesus, popularly known as Husing Batuti. He also called as the poet of lag in his time, ang isang punong kahoy, a tree. An elegy is believed to be his masterpiece. Amado V. Hernandez, dubbed Makata ng mga manggagawa, poet of the deliverer in our literature. Valeriano Hernandez Peña, he reached the summit of his novel writing. He was known as Tandang Anong, and his pen name was Konting Botel, Small Green. Inigo de Regalado was a son of a popular writer during the Spanish time known as Aldeger. Tagalog drama during the advent of the American period, Severino Reyes and Hermogenes Ilagan started the movement against the Moro Moro, a play on the Spanish strugglers against the Muslims, and struggle to show the people the values one can get from the Sarsuela and the simple days. The people one should not forget in the field of writing are the following: Severino Reyes, father of the Tagalog drama and author of the immortal Walang Sugat; Aurelio Tolentino, the dramatist in whom the Kapampangan take pride; Hermogenes Ilagan, founded the group of Campania Ilagan that presented mini drama in Central Luzon. Patricio Mariano wrote the novel Ninay an Anak ng Dagat or Son of Sea, his masterpiece. Julian Cruz Balmaceda wrote Bunganga ng Pating or The Shark Mouth. They are, they are Tagalog short story. The two collection of Tagalog short story were published during the American period. First was the Mga Kwentong Ginto or the Golden Story, published in 1936, and Kwentong Ginto ng 50 Vatican Coentissia or 50 Golden Story by 50 noted storyteller in 1939. The second was the Parulang Ginto or the Golden Lantern and Talaang Bughaw or the Blawless. Tagalog poetry. Tagalog writers during the American period were able to compose beautiful poems which made it difficult to select the best. Even if poetry writing is as old as history, poet, poetry still surfaces with its sweetness, beauty, and melody. Other forms of literature under the Ilocano literature. Pedro Bocanig, father of Ilocano literature. Claro Caloya, Friends of Ilocano poets. Leon Pichay, known as the best Bocanigero, or from the Bocanig. Literature of Kapampangan, or Pampango literature. Two stalwarts is in the literature of the Kapampangan stand out. They are Juan Crisostomo Soto, father of Kapampangan literature. Aurelio Tolentino, he truly proved his being a Kapampangan in his translation of Kahapon, Ngayon, Bukas at Bukas into Kapampangan, which is called Napon, Ngini at Bukas. Visayan literature. The following are the top men in Visayan literature. Heriberto Gumban, father of Visayan literature. Magdalena Halanduni, devoted to her talent to the novel. Philippine literature in English. Philippine literature in English with the coming of the American. We can divide this period into three time frames, namely the period of reorientation 1898 to 1910, the period of imitation 1910 to 1925, the period of self-discovery 1925 to 1941. The period of reorientation of 1898 to 1910, English as a literary vehicle, came with the American occupation in August 13, 1898. By, by, it, by 1900, English came to use as a medium of instruction in the public school. By 1908, the primary and intermediate grade were using English. Not much was produced during the period of what literature was produced was not much of the literary work. The first attempts in English were in two periodicals of this time. A. El Renacimiento, founded in Manila by Rafael Palma in 1901. Philippine Free Press, established in Manila in 1905 by R. McCulloch, Dick and D. Theodroger. Poetry. In 1907, Justo Juliano, Sursum Corda, which appeared in Renacimiento, was the first work to be published in English. In 1909, John F. Salazar, My Mother and His Air Castle, were also published in this newspaper. In 1901, in 1909 when Proceso Sebastian followed with his poem To My Laudo in Lawag, also in the same paper. The period of imitation in 1910 to 1924. By 1919, the UP College Folio published the literary composition of the first Filipino writers in English. They were the pioneers in short story writing. Their models included Longfellow and Hawthorne, Emerson and Tyrrell, Wordsworth and Tennyson, Thackeray and Macaulay, Longfellow, Allan Poe, Irving and other American writers of the Romantic scorn. Writers of this of this folio included Fernando Maramag, the best editorial writer of this period, Juan M. Salazar, Jose M. Hernandez, Vicente del Fuero, and Francisco M. Aprica and Victoriano Yamson. They pioneered in English. Essay. The noted essays of this time were Carlos P. Romulo, George C. Bocubo, Mauro Mendez, and Vincent Hilario. The next group of writers introduced the informal essay, criticism, and the journalistic column. This group included Ignacio Manlapas, Godifredo Rivera, Federico Mangajas, Francisco B. Icasiano, Salvador P. Lopez, Jose Lansang, and Amado G. Dairet. Short story. In the field of short story, Dead Star by Paz Marquez Benitez, written in early 1920s, other short stories published during this time were but for imitation of the foreign model. Newspaper and periodical also saw print during this time like Bulletin, the Philippine Review, the Independent, Rising Philippines and Citizen, and the Philippine Education Magazine of 1924. Period of self-discovery and growth in 1925 to 1941. By this time, Filipino writers had acquired the mastery of English writing. They know confidentially and completely wrote on a lot of subjects, although the all-time favorite of love and youth persisted. They went into all forms of writing, like the novel and drama. Poetry was the original spontaneous, competently written and later incorporated social consciousness. The short story, probably because of the literature incentives provided by publications like the Philippine Free Press, the Graphic, the Philippine Magazine, and college publications like UP Literary, Apprentice, Poetry, and the short story flourished during this time. Other writers during this time included Osmundo Santa Romana, Arturo Rotor, Paz Latorinas, Sunset, and Jose Garcia Villa, Mirin, Mirin Isa. 1930 to 1940, the golden era of Filipino writing in English saw the short story writer. Characteristic of the short story. There were still remnant of Spanish influence in the use of expressions that were florid, sentimental, exaggerated, and bombastic. Easy and other forced styles. Easy during this period improved with the years in quality and quantity, in content, subject, and style. The notable writers of AC during this period were political, social reflective AC, critical AC, personal or familiar AC. Some of the notable work during this time were 1940 Salvador P. Lopez, Literature and Society. 1940 Camilo Ucias published The Filipino Way of Life. 1941 F.B. Icasiano, Mangkiko. August 16, 1941, Carlo P. Romulo had an editorial printed in the Philippine Herald entitled I Am a Filipino. It was printed in the book My Brotherhood American in 1945 in New York by Doubleday and Corporation. Other essayists included Ignacio Manlapas, Vicente Albano Casis, I.B. Malyari, Jose M. Fernandez, Leopoldo Y. Yabes, Isidro L. Ritizo, and Pura Santillan. The Philippine Writer League put out a collection of essays called Literature Under the Commonwealth. Armando G. Dairet, with his column Good Morning, just lead others like Leon Ma Guerrero, Salvador Lopez, Vincent Albano, Pasis, Jose A. Lansang, and Federico Mangajas. Biography of 1925 to 1941. In 1935, I. P. Caballero and Marcelo de Garcia Concepcion wrote about Quezon. In 1938, the Great Malayan won a prize in the national quiz sponsored by the Commonwealth of the Philippines. This was written by Carlos Quirino, the most famous biographer of the period. He also wrote Quezon, the Man of Destiny. In 1940, Ibn Malyari, the birth of this content, revealed the sensitive touch of writer who, in simple language, was able to reveal his profound thought and feelings. History in 1937, with regard to literature history, we can cite Teofilo del Castillo, The Brief History of the Philippine Island. Publication. The Philippine Press provided the first incentives to Filipino writers in English by offering prize to worthwhile contribution. The drama, 1925 to 1945. Drama during the period did not reach the high attained by the novel or the short story. And that would be all. Thank you for listening.